Angel and the Witch Hunter by John Victor Ramses. Copyright 2024. Angel and the Witch Hunter is a work of fiction. Names of characters are the result of fiction or coincidence. Song lyric credit: Little Miss Magic. Written and performed by Jimmy Buffett on his album, Coconut Telegraph, 1987. Chapter 11. John Mercer stepped off the train in Mäntsälä, his breath forming clouds in the crisp Finnish air. The wind, sharp and biting, swept through the station, tugging at his dark leather long coat. Snow in September was rare, but a freak dip in the jet stream had invited an early winter and temperatures he hadn't prepared for. John hated airports, loathed public trains even more, but Elterin law was clear: no magic for travel in the human world. It was a regulation he found both necessary and infuriating. The Elterin had spent centuries weaving their existence seamlessly into human society, ensuring they appeared as nothing more than a peculiar branch of humanity. Adjusting the brim of his hat, he scanned the familiar contours of the small town. Mäntsälä wasn't just a waypoint on his journey, it was a cornerstone of his life. His ancient family roots run deep here, tracing back through generations of ancestors who had walked this land long before the first human settlers arrived. While battle mages trained in Agartha, hidden deep beneath the Utah desert, witch hunters as himself had always trained in Finland, where the Elterin's long-standing traditions of magic, shadow, and survival were strongest. Returning to Mäntsälä was not without a weight upon his heart, a memory he had buried but could never forget. A young Silvari with eyes like the morning sky and a spirit of unmatched light. Their love had consumed them with a fervent heat, but it was a relationship destined to end before it could truly burn. The bond they shared had been forbidden by circumstance, and although decades have passed, the thought of her still sent a warm tingle through John's heart. Today, however, was no time for nostalgia. He forced the memory aside as he turned toward an unassuming building a few blocks away. It stood at the edge of town, its modest facade hiding the grand secrets beneath. While the humans lived above, the Elterin High Council had remained hidden from view through the ages by layers of ancient magic. Arriving at the building, John pushed open the wooden door and stepped inside. Warm air greeted him, carrying a faint scent of cedar. Snow fell from his boots as he approached an elevator at the end of the narrow hall. Removing his glove, he pressed the worn surface of his ring into a hidden slot on the panel. A faint blue glow signaled recognition, and the elevator began its descent. As the hum of the machinery filled the small space, John's thoughts again turned inward. He had spent years honing his skills in these halls, learning to fight the very darkness that now threatened to destroy everything he held dear. When the doors slid open, John stepped out into a grand hallway. The scent of cedar again filled the air, the rich aroma sharp against the cold, sterile smell of the world above. His boots clicked against the granite floor as he walked, each step echoing in the cavernous space. The walls and columns were masterfully carved from ancient cedar wood, inlaid with runes of gold, silver, and other rare minerals. Each symbol pulsed faintly, their arcane power a silent reminder of the magic coursing through the heart of the Elterin Council. As he approached the end of the 200-foot hall, thick double doors loomed before him, massive, ornate, and carved with intricate scenes of Elterin history. Above the door, symbols in the ancient Elder Futhark runic alphabet announced what lay beyond. The High Council of the Elterin. John was reminded of the proper pronunciation of word Elterin in its ancient form, replacing the lazy-sounding D of John's Western influence with a crisp T. This pronunciation is still used by the Finnic-speaking council members, retaining a deserved elegance. Two guards, clad in ceremonial armor, stood watching John closely. "I am John Mercer," he spoke to the guard on his right. "I've been summoned." The guard glanced at his companion before nodding. Unlocking the doors with a simple gesture of his hand, the heavy doors swung open slowly, revealing the grandeur of the council chamber. Hovering orbs of light illuminated the amphitheater of intricately carved wood and stone. 9 Elterin mages sat behind a semicircular dais, their robes marked by the symbols of their respective magical attributes and rank. Their gazes, ranging from curiosity to disdain, followed John as he approached. John stopped short of the dais, clasping his hands behind his back. With customary respect, John bowed to Taika, acknowledging her position as the supreme elder seated at the center. Discreetly scanning the panel, some members were familiar to John while others were not. To Taika's right sat her husband, Sven, a good man as John recalled, wise and patient. On her left sat Bjorn, a nasty-tempered elder with sunken eyes and hawkish nose. John's confrontations with Bjorn from the days of his training left tensions lingering still to the present, and he could feel it. The remaining elders John did not know and didn't care. "You summoned me with urgency," John said, locking his eyes on Taika. "Here I am. May I inquire as to the purpose of this unprecedented summons?" Taika leaned forward, her silver hair shimmering in the light, then spoke in her traditional ancient Finnic language. "John Mercer, it has come to the ears of this council certain grave matters which must be addressed. Firstly, your union with the Frost Coven which, a sworn enemy of the Elterin, was unacceptable and reckless, bordering on treason." John's jaw tightened, but he forced himself to remain calm. Taika's charge was unexpected. "I traveled 5,000 miles for this? There is no law against marriage between races." Taika's eyes narrowed. "There may yet be after your actions. Who I marry is not the council's concern." "Isn't it?" Taika said sharply. "The Elterin have been at war with the Ambrosians for centuries. Many on this council have lost loved ones to their assassins, including your own father." John's stance stiffened. "And we have killed as many of them. Not all are evil. I have done no wrong worthy of this council's attention or concern." "Your union with the enemy is a blatant insult," Bjorn growled. "Where do your loyalties lay?" Bjorn leaned in as if studying John's reaction for fault. "Where they have always been, with my Eldrin kin." "I have my doubts," Bjorn challenged. "You fled into hiding with the witch. That act suggests you knew your union would not be condoned by your fellow kin." "I retired. This council approved it. My whereabouts afterward was no one's business." Bjorn raised his voice. "Your retirement was granted upon dispatching the last threat you were assigned. I eliminated the last threat you sent me to kill." "No, John," Taika snapped. "You married the last threat you were sent to kill, and you've been in hiding ever since until now. Surely you can see how that action appears to the council." John's eyes narrowed. In his view they had no right to question whom he loved or married, much less travel 5,000 miles to answer for. Lyra was no threat. She was not involved with the assassinations. The High Council simply wants all Frost Coven erased out of vengeance, whether good or bad. "None of them are good, John Mercer," Bjorn shouted. John was not intimidated. "That's only your assumption as you sit cowering in your chambers afraid to step outside. You became paranoid and genocidal." "Mind your words, Salvori." Bjorn began to stand. John stepped closer in defiance. "Or what, Bjorn? This council has no authority to question my personal life, nor to exact any restrictions. You have lost touch with your obligations as much as with the outside world you were sworn to protect." "We protect our own first," Bjorn asserted. Taika stood. "Which brings us to the second matter. The real matter of which you were summoned. Your daughter, Amanraya, the hybrid. We are informed that the mixing of Ambrosian and Elterin blood has created a being that now threatens the very existence of our kind. That authorizes this council the right to both question and to act where required." "She's just a child," John asserted sharply. Bjorn sat back, folding his arms as he spoke. "Perhaps, but she is no ordinary child, is she? Your wife and the Alzorian clearly respect her value enough to steal her away, do they not?" "That proves her a danger to us," Sven added. John took a step closer, his fists clenched. "She is my daughter, an innocent child. I will not stand here and let you condemn her for crimes she has not committed. nor will I apologize for my love for Lyra. Love, John? Taika smirked as she returned to her seat. We believe Lyra cast an enchantment on you, a love spell, for the sole purpose of producing the hybrid. Lyra may have used you to create a weapon to use against us, said Sven. That's preposterous. Is it? Taika slammed her hand on the table. Lyra is a Frostcoven witch. They don't play fair. She likely knew you were coming to kill her. She would also have known you'd succeed. Taika paused, her voice softening. You were the best, John. Bjorn again spoke. Our guess is that she merely changed her tactic. Rather than fatally confronting you head-on, she cast an enchantment on you, seducing you, then produced a volatile misfit from your seed, Elterin seed. Not just Elterin seed, but a Salvori, Taika reminded. Witch hunters are second only to battle mages in tactical magic and power. And you impregnated a Frostcoven witch with that power and called it love. Taika's words cut deep, but John kept his composure as he'd been trained to do in battle. Bjorn continued, we sent you to terminate a Frostcoven assassin. Instead of fulfilling your mission, you married her, then fled into hiding and produced a hybrid creature who is now under the control of an Alzorian demon. It would be in your best interest to accept that you were enchanted, John, Taika said. That would be excusable if not only understandable. But if you continue to deny it, then you are admitting your actions were deliberate and intentional. In which case, you consciously committed treason, betraying your own kind for the enemy. And that will invoke consequences, Bjorn added. John was still glaring at Bjorn with utter contempt. Call my daughter a creature again and I will show you consequence, Bjorn. She is neither Elterin nor Ambrosian, yet both, Taika said. No other being exists like her. John shouted, and still there remains no proof my daughter is magical at all. Yet you call her your little Miss Magic, do you not? Taika accused. John's breath caught. Only my mother knew that. Audrey has been in contact with us since you came out of hiding, Taika revealed. It's how we knew you were in Tulistan. Sven spoke. Your sister expressed her concerns to us 3 years ago, but of course no one knew how to find you. So here we are today. Taika's voice lowered. We think you're lying about your daughter's magical abilities to protect her, John. Understandable. You are a father. Sven broke in before John could reply to the accusation. But we are also parents who must protect our own children, our race. Bjorn always enjoyed his turn to speak. As it stands now, your daughter is under the control of a Frostcoven witch who is in league with an Alzorian demon, a vile warrior of Lucifer. What do you think he intends to do with such a freak weapon? John did not answer, his mind overwhelmed. His own mother betrayed him, his sister as well. His eyes fell away to a memory of singing to his baby daughter. Little Miss Magic, what you gonna be? An enchanted love or not, that was the only time in his life he had truly been happy. If they only knew her as I do, John thought to himself. I love her so. She is not evil. How has it come to this? Bjorn leaned toward John, his bony finger pointing in accusation. Your love was but a witch's trick, John Mercer. Your dangerous hybrid child should never have existed. Bjorn relaxed back into his seat. John Mercer, it will be determined by this council that for the safety and welfare of the Elterin race, Amanraya must be destroyed. Taika glanced sharply at Bjorn, her eyes flashed with alarm. The chamber fell into a deathly silence as they each knew a dangerous line had just been crossed. Bjorn's last 4 words echoed in John's ears. Amanraya must be destroyed. His eyes became lit with amber fury. When he spoke again, his voice was low, his measured words laced with toxic menace. If any harm comes to my daughter by or through your hands, not one of you on this council will live to see another dawn. Then, stepping forward, he concluded, I assure you, I'm still the best. The silence thickened, the weight of John's threat hung in the air as the council members exchanged uneasy glances. None among them dared to challenge this Salvori, this father. The glow of seething rage pulsed in John's eyes. If you will not assist me in saving me, daughter, stay clear of my path. Henceforth I stand alone. John turned on his heel and strode toward the doors. At the last moment Bjorn gathered his courage. "We may have additional questions, John Mercer. You will remain in Mäntsälä until further notice." "Try and stop me." Pushing open the heavy chamber doors as if they were made of hollow reeds, John left the oppressive amphitheater and returned to the cold wintry surface. Outside the hidden council chamber, a light snow began to fall as John strode toward awaiting transport, his fury still illuminating his eyes. Taika appeared before him, seemingly from nowhere. "John, wait. Whatever you have to say, save it for your council," John muttered without stopping. Taika grabbed John's arm, spinning him to face her. "The council has ordered your arrest. They have no authority. They voted themselves the authority, 7-2 I might add." "What has become of the High Council?" John growled. "They want to murder my only daughter and now think they can arrest another Elterin? Corruption festers within the council in these troubled times. You have all been left unchecked for too long down there." "Not all, John. Sven and I do not share Bjorn's resolve, but he is highly influential. Bjorn would rather see Amanraya dead than gamble the consequences of your daughter's power falling under the control of the Ambrosians. Taking a man's only reason for living is dangerous. I will keep my word, Taika. Harm my daughter, no one survives." Turning, he began to walk away. "You'll never get back through airport security, John. They had prepared for your detainment long before you arrived." John stopped without turning around. Taika stepped toward him. "I've arranged for a private jet to take you as far as Maine. Just waiting in Tampere. Your driver is instructed to take you there." "And just like that, you expect me to trust you?" John asked as he turned to face her. "You have no alternative, John. You just spent the last hour condemning both me and my child. I questioned you harshly because I had to, John, and you know why." Taika's voice softened. "If they learn that I'm helping you now, I'll be the next one silenced. My position on this council is token." John studied her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "I too fear what your daughter might become. But what Bjorn is doing is wrong, just fear-driven paranoia." John sighed as he turned to leave. "All this because I loved a woman." "Your love was just an enchantment, John. Nothing more." John turned sharply, his eyes locking into Taika's, his gaze penetrating into her very soul. "You're saying that I'm not capable of feeling love without magic? Was our love then only a fleeting enchantment, Taika?" His words caught her off guard. Her face flushed as her knees weakened. Still, she could not move her eyes from his. "No, John," her voice cracked lightly. "I felt that love then. There was no magic involved." John stepped closer, moving deeper into her soul. Taika's heart raced. Softly he spoke. "Love is the magic, Taika." Her heart throbbed in her chest as she at last broke John's gaze and stared out into the night, to a memory from long ago. A single tear rolled off her cheek, freezing into crystal before disappearing into the snow at her feet. "I stand reminded that I too am no stranger to impossible relationships." She looked again into his eyes. "Forgive me, John, for what I said in there. I admit my jealousy placed cutting words upon my tongue." A short silence followed as flakes of gently falling snow adorned her tinsel-colored hair. Her next words almost choked in her throat. Her voice was all but a whisper. "You couldn't have known back then, John, how I yearned to have a child with you." The fury in John's eyes extinguished as he gazed into Taika's, remembering and for a long moment yearning with her. Smiling warmly, John extended his hand and lightly caressed her flushed cheek. She drew a quick breath. Oh, how she missed his touch, his smile, his voice, and the long conversations while laying within his gentle embrace. Catching her breath again, she turned her face away, quickly reburying such thoughts. "Sven is good to me. I adore him, but I haven't felt that magic of love since those days of our youth. You must go now, John, please. The council's hunters will be on your heels." Even as she spoke the words, she knew it was not the council's hunters she feared, but rather the magic of love, her impossible love for John Mercer. "Be safe, Taika." John fled into the falling snow and was gone, but not so from Taika's heart. Raising her hand, she caused the snow to erase his tracks. How she wished she could as easily erase her memories. Then, from behind her, a familiar voice refocused her thoughts. Love never dies, only the vessel that carries it. Sven put his arm around his wife, clearly aware of the scene that had just unfolded. Leaning into him, she felt no shame. There was no need for explanation. Sven, too, had loved another before her, his first wife who had died in battle. Passing his hand through the crisp air, a portal opened, one of several entrances to the Elterin world beneath. Come in from the snow now, my love, before the council becomes suspicious. As they began to enter the portal, movement caught the corner of Sven's eye. Two shadowy forms appeared to lift skyward from a nearby clearing among the trees. Glancing quickly in the direction, he saw nothing. Perhaps it was nothing, he thought to himself. Just his own unease playing tricks.